The bottom half of the men's draw at Roland Garros has descended into pure chaos. And we knew that the draw wasn't even. As soon as it came out, we said, okay, the bottom half is weaker than the top half. But what has occurred since then has made that reality more extreme than I could have ever imagined. Here is where we sit. Monday match analysis yesterday, I talked about Nadal Djokovic and Alcaraz Zverev. Okay, so on the top half, you have 56 combined Masters 1000 titles and major titles on clay between Nadal, Djokovic, Zverev, and Alcaraz. 56 of them. All of them have won at least a Masters 1000 on clay. On the bottom half, after everything that went down on Monday, Cilic, Rublev, Ruud, and Rune, 0. Not a single one of those players has won a Masters on clay or obviously a major on clay. And in some cases, it's not particularly close when it comes to those players. Rublev, no major semifinals. Ruud, no major semifinals. Rune, no major semifinals. Only Cilic has that pedigree. This is crazy, but I want to get into some of the matches that occurred. No in-depth post-match analysis from me on any of them because I have a lot on my plate right now, and there were none that I watched every single point, taking notes, focusing, all that. But I caught a lot of at least two of them, the Tsitsipas match and the Medvedev match on replay. So let's start with Medvedev against Cilic. First of all, Cilic in Australia, he beat Rublev. So now both majors, he pulls off an upset. And you may have remembered after that Cilic win over Rublev, I was like, whoa, what the heck was that? That's the best I've seen Marin Cilic play in 3 years. That's what I said after the Rublev win. It was like a level that was very much insane, unexpectedly good from Marin Cilic. And I didn't even come away from that match thinking that Rublev was all that bad. Similar thing here, although a much more lopsided match in which, you do have to look at Daniil Medvedev and kind of levy some criticism there for how uncompetitive it was. But similar deal where it's like, where did this come from Marin Cilic? Here's how I thought the match would go. What I thought would happen is between Medvedev's return and his movement, even though it's a little bit worse on clay and the nighttime conditions, I thought we were going to get a lot of long rallies, and Cilic's rally tolerance, his shot tolerance, whichever term you use, so far inferior to Medvedev's, that Medvedev was basically going to be able to extend rallies into errors, dominate the long rallies, and keep things close on the short rallies because of his serving prowess, Daniil Medvedev's. That's how I thought it was going to go. What ended up happening is Cilic really didn't make that many mistakes at all in extended rallies. His shot tolerance wasn't that bad at all, and his firepower off the ground in particular far exceeded what Medvedev was able to do in terms of baseline power and his ability to do damage off the ground. I mean, it wasn't even close. So what ended up happening was in rallies over 5 shots, so 5 shots or more in this match. I'm sorry, I have to pull this up because I thought I had it up, but I didn't. So let me just pull it up real quick. Medvedev, I know off memory, hit 3 winners the entire match. So anytime the rally surpassed 5 shots, so 5 shots or more, in total, Medvedev hit 3 winners and forced 5 errors. So let's call it 8 finishes. Cilic, 15 winners. Again, same subset, 5+ shots, 15 winners, and it'll be 13 forced errors. So 15 plus 13, that brings us at 28 finishes. 28 to 7. Sorry, 28 to 8. I mean, that's basically Daniil Medvedev's baseline power, which is his main problem on clay. A lot of people will argue maybe that it's his movement. I just disagree. I think it is his ability to generate pace, his ability to be offensive off the ground on clay. Nighttime conditions are only going to make that worse, by the way, but I thought against Kecmanovic, as I covered, he did do a lot of damage with his backhand. He applied enough pressure with his forehand. In this match, nighttime conditions, that was not the case. It never felt like Cilic was rushed, didn't feel like he was on the run much, and he just wasn't going to miss. He was in one of those moods where if you want to beat Marin Cilic when he's playing that well, you better make him play D. You better stretch him out, because from the middle of the court, whether it's a backhand or a forehand, he's going to crush the ball. And if you look at unforced errors, there was just no separation there. So now it comes down to, well, who is hitting a bigger ball and who's able to do damage in the rallies, and it was by far Marin Cilic. So I was actually right about the short rallies. It was 43-40 Cilic, right? I thought, okay, they're going to kind of cancel each other out there. Long rallies, I thought Medvedev would win based on consistency and rally tolerance. Cilic dominated in that area because of his power in these heavy conditions. So Medvedev, look, he didn't come into the tournament with any expectations. So big picture, this isn't that big a deal. But, it's definitely his clay court weakness really coming to bear in this match against Cilic, who, again, he played awesome. And, Cilic beat Gilles Simon, I think it was in the third round in 2014 at the U.S. Open, and just got so smoking hot, didn't drop a set. Federer in the semis, Nishikori in the final, wins the U.S. Open. He beats Gilles Simon in this tournament, smokes Medvedev on the heels of it. What's going on here? All right, what do we have here with Marin Cilic? I have no clue, if we're being honest. I don't know what to expect out of him. But, Rublev is, again, the guy he beat at the Australian Open, and another opponent who is going to absolutely take huge swings at Rublev's second serve weakness. So I think it's a good matchup for Cilic. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win, but man, we could have something here. All right, moving on to Tsitsipas Rune. This was another match that Tsitsipas's weaknesses, just like the Medvedev match, were really glaring here. Because first of all, Rune was just so much more productive on the backhand. It was another match against a teenager for Tsitsipas, which he seems to be having trouble with Alcaraz and Rune now. Another match against a teenager who is really balanced, whether it be his forehand or his backhand. He's going to be able to be productive offensively. Far above average offensively is Rune on his two-hander. And he was taking it down the line, and he was doing that thing that we've talked about with Tsitsipas, which is you have to go to his forehand aggressively so that you can make him hit that forehand on the run and you don't let him get comfortable on the ad side. Then you can attack his backhand. But first, you have to go hard to his forehand, and Rune was doing that with his backhand down the line. I just absolutely loved Rune's backhand throughout the match. It was so much better than Steph. So, can Tsitsipas build an advantage in rallies if he's playing a guy who is just much more balanced than him from the baseline when it comes to forehand, backhand, being even off of both wings? I don't know. It hasn't really played out that way. Look at Tsitsipas's last losses. Rune, Djokovic, Zverev, Alcaraz. Those are his recent losses. These are world-class backhands. These are players who are more even than Tsitsipas off of both wings. But as good as Rune is, something has been off with Steph. It just hasn't looked right from the very start. First round against Musetti, it was a really bad opening two sets. I slammed him for those opening two sets, and then he took care of business. Then he had that really close, difficult match against Kolar in the second round. That was a little bit concerning. He took care of business against Mikael Ymer in round 3. Ymer's an opponent who he's just crushed every time they've played. Now 4-0 head-to-head for Tsitsipas, and it's never looked competitive. But things just didn't look right. And, he said after the match he was getting frustrated on the practice court as well. And, now here's another performance where when you look at it from Tsitsipas's perspective, the return was terrible. He missed way too many returns in this match. And that was true in the Musetti match, first 2 sets. Remember, I talked about that in my breakdown. Musetti's got an average to below average serve. Missed way too many returns in the Kolar match. That's an average to below average serve. And the serve is Rune's weakness. He doesn't hit it big. I think he averaged below triple digits in this match. He doesn't hit it big. And guess who hit more service winners? Rune or Tsitsipas? Rune. Tsitsipas hit more aces. His serve is bigger. But when Tsitsipas is getting a racket on it and not making the return. That's the difference between Rune and Tsitsipas. Rune gets a racket on it, he makes the return. In fact, his offensive returning was incredible in this match. It really blew me away how good Rune's return was. Tsitsipas just has to return better against an average to below average server. And this was the case in his other matches. His backhand defense was really bad. Every time he had to go to the slice defense that was so good in Monte Carlo, I don't know what happened. Tomasenko is back out of the picture, and now it's going to regress. But ultimately, I think there's something going on with Tsitsipas's equipment as well. The other area where I'd criticize Tsitsipas in this match for is look at the games Rune broke. They were mostly disastrous. They were mostly about attacking forehand unforced errors and double faults. Rune played well in this match. Don't get me wrong, but look at a lot of the key games that he broke, especially in the 3rd and the 4th set. They are terrible games by Tsitsipas, and you just can't have that, and he's got to be better than that. So this was a poor performance from Steph, and this has felt like a struggle, Roland Garros, from start to finish, really. What's going on here? Because, he won Monte Carlo, and that was a good tournament for him, but other than that, there really hasn't been a moment where he's looked like he's been at 100% since the very beginning of the year. And I'm starting to think he needs to think about his strings again, which he changed at the start of the year, and he kept mentioning it in the press conference after the match. And then he's saying it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Well, you're clearly putting it out there and talking about it. So in your brain, that's what you're thinking about, and Tsitsipas can say, that's not the reason why I lost, blah, blah, blah. But look, if he wasn't thinking that, he wouldn't be talking about it. He would not mention it. So there's something going on with his equipment. He changed strings, for those who don't know, by the way. He went to natural gut on the crosses. So poly on the mains, natural gut on the crosses, instead of a full out, polyester string bed. And that takes stress off the elbow. Remember, he had elbow surgery in the offseason. But ever since he's done that, he's looked like he's missing about 5 to 10% of his game. So I think he needs to take a look at that. But Rune pulls off the upset. Rune's legit. I'm a big fan of his in general. So really nice to see him break through, because he's got a really solid game, baseline game, especially. He's got good hands. He's good off both wings. I love his forehand half volley from the baseline. You can hit a deep return and he still crushes the +1 forehand. Small detail. Just had to throw it out there. Sinner and Rublev. Hit on that. Sinner dominates the first set. He's in cruise control. It's looking once again like this is just a bad matchup for Rublev, and Sinner is going to get the better of Andrey on clay for the 3rd straight time. And then Sinner hurts his knee and has to retire. So now we're looking at Sinner's season. He got COVID in February. He got some sort of general non-COVID illness at Indian Wells. Then he got blisters in Miami, was still dealing with the blisters for some reason in Monte Carlo. Then he gets healthy for a brief period of time, and now he hurts his knee at Roland Garros. I mean, some of those injuries, right, like with COVID and illness and blisters, that I don't think that's like that's not a durability thing. Those seem like fluky bad luck injuries. If they weren't, I'd be saying, gee, man is 20 years old and can't stay healthy, that's kind of a red flag. I'm not going to go there because of the nature of the injuries, but I will say, boy, it's been a really unlucky season. And this is by far the most crushing injury that Sinner has had, because this is his best slam and the draw was wide open for him. It was a great draw for him. It would have obviously been Cilic in the next round for him. Rublev was a good matchup for him. Tsitsipas had been knocked out, so he wouldn't have had to worry about Tsitsipas, who's been a matchup nightmare for him in the semis. Tough blow. Tough blow. And now Rublev is in his 4th ever major quarterfinal, chance for a first semifinal. So that'll be a big one. Ruud beats Hurkacz. That's the match that I kind of missed today. Couldn't really see much of it. But, man, it's huge for Ruud that he goes deep at a Roland Garros here. I mean, he really needed that to happen, I think, given all the clay court success that he's had, not just in the 250s, which he keeps winning and sweeping, and that's been dominant, but also in the 1000s going deep consistently. Not winning any, but going deep pretty consistently. He just needed the Roland Garros run. He hadn't passed round 3. He lost to Federer and Thiem, 3 years ago, and 2 years ago, lost to Davidovich Fokina in the 3rd round last year. Got through the tough one, conquered the demons, and beat Sonego in 5 sets. And this was a big win over Hurkacz, but I can't really comment too much on the tennis. So it's going to be Ruud versus Rune. It is going to be Rublev versus Cilic. I don't have predictions. I have too much of an incomplete picture here. I missed too much tennis today. I clearly don't have a great read on some of these guys right now. Ruud, I feel like I don't have a good read on. Cilic, I have no clue what to expect from the guy. Rublev, I'm actually not too big a fan of the tennis that Rublev has been playing. I can just say that, but I don't feel like I have a good read on him either. So I don't really know. I don't know what's going on in this bottom half. It is utter chaos. And look, I'm intrigued. I'm very curious to see who's going to take advantage of this. Who is going to make a major final here? It's going to be really interesting. And then once they get in the final, they're going to be a heavy underdog. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.